Hi, it's the end of week 4 in the legislative session. This is the week that we're finishing up our appropriations, and that means that all of the money has been recommended to a larger committee, and now they take all of these subcommittees and they try to make them into a workable budget. And so they're working on that over the next couple of weeks, and we'll get that the last week of the session. But everyone has prioritized the items and the spending in the state that they feel is most important. And it's not necessarily a matter of what is good or what is not, but it's a matter of prioritization between a lot of funding requests. Typically, for every one funding item that gets funded, there's about 3 or 4 that don't in terms of dollars. The second thing I wanted to talk to you about is the resolution that I ran, which it changes the rules of procedure for the courts. The reason I ran that resolution is because there was a concern in the legislature that some of the laws were being easily set aside, and we wanted to make sure that while we want the courts to determine if they are unconstitutional, that is purely within the court's purview, we were concerned that before they get to the point of making that determination, sometimes the courts were telling a law that it could not go into effect. And that's appropriate for the courts, but we don't want that bar to be too low. So this resolution is one of the things that we have by our state constitution that we can change their rules of civil procedure by a 2/3 vote. So that's specifically written into our constitution as a check on the judiciary. And so I was asked to run a bill to help with that process, and that bill is about to be passed by the Senate, and it should go through either today or early next week. Now, the last thing that I wanted to talk about was the bill related to conversion therapy. So if you're not familiar with conversion therapy, the basic idea is it is therapy that attempts to tell someone who is typically LGBT that they are not LGBT or something like that, something along those lines. And so I've been working on this issue for about 5 years. And while I am not the bill sponsor, I did do a lot of the research and a lot of the discussions on this bill. And we were able to negotiate between all of the different stakeholders, which typically have kind of been at each other's throats. And it's been a really contentious thing. And we were able to negotiate something that everyone agreed on. And so we had members of the LGBT community that were in favor of the conversion therapy bill, and we had members of the religious community, members of the further right community, that they felt like this was a very good compromise on all sides. I think it's important that we protect our LGBT youth from some of the predatory practices in the past. I also think it's important that we protect free speech rights. And this was an effort to strike the correct balance between those, and we think that we've come up with something that will be a model for the nation. And it was a really rewarding process to be in the middle of that and to be the primary negotiator between the different sides. And that was a kind of a different role than what I usually play as an advocate, where in this instance I was more of the mediator in all of it and really helped to structure this in a way that made sense. Down to every single word was heavily negotiated. But we got to a place where no one has voted against this bill. It is something that has been one of the more rewarding things that I've done. So that is the week 4 update. I look forward to providing next week's update. We've got a lot in store for weeks 5 and 6. Thanks.